Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Corey Pierce, and I'm the Marketing Director at Churn Zero, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar titled, Why It's Time to Build a CS Ops Role. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that we are recording this session. A link to the recording will be available 24 hours after this webinar. Throughout the presentation, you are welcome to submit your questions via the question and answer box, and our staff will try and answer them as we go. We will also address as many questions as we can during the Q&A portion of this webinar. Now, I'm pleased to introduce to you our presenter today, Jason Conrad. Jason is an associate partner responsible for overseeing customer imperative strategic consulting business. Jason works closely with their consulting teams to ensure that their clients succeed at gaining, growing, and retaining customers. His passion for customer-centricity allows him to guide their clients through an outside-in approach to customer success and customer journey design, leading to revenue growth and differentiated customer experience. Jason previously held positions at PwC and Comcast, where he focused on helping organizations, people, and products through transformative changes. As he moved into growth stage SaaS at People Matter and Snag, he pointed his focus to driving revenue growth and customer outcomes. His experience across sales, marketing, and product and customer success have allowed him to help clients focus on customer-first experiences. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Jason.
Thanks so much, Corey. I'm excited to be here. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And thanks for the nice intro. So we'll jump right into it. Today's topic, why it's time to build customer success operations. So what do you all want to know today? We actually had a little bit of a poll on LinkedIn and a discussion going on my colleague Jay Nathan's kind of LinkedIn feed. And there were 4 big themes that came out of it. Starting with, what is customer success operations? Also, if you are an exec team member or if you're another leader, why can't my VP of customer success do that is a big question. How does this work with other operations functions? How does this work with sales ops and marketing ops? And then how do we automate with technology? So those were 4 big themes that came out that we're going to cover today. I always love to start out with the registration breakdown. So not surprisingly, about half of the registrants today were either a customer success manager or a CSM, followed by a quarter being a head of customer success, like a VP or director. We also have a lot of customer success operations, about 10% of our registrants. So I'm excited to see that this job role continues to grow. And then we have our friends from sales, services, marketing, and support. We also have our C-suite here today, so 5% of attendees. So for those of you looking to understand why you should invest in CS Ops, especially if at the exec level, hope you get a lot out of today's webinar. So who am I? Corey just did an awesome intro for me, but all you need to know is I've worked across product marketing and customer success. My focus has always been on the most customer impacting functions, and I'm a huge advocate that customer success is really not a team, it's more of a discipline. So any functional area that you work in, you've got a hand in customer success. Who's Customer Imperative? We are based in Charleston, South Carolina, founded in 2017. Charleston's an amazing place to visit. I recommend coming to see us there on the water down south. We are the leading provider of customer success, team building, process, and automation consulting. So we are the leading provider of customer success consulting. And we've helped over 40 SaaS companies build customer success since inception. We work with a lot of really amazing clients from companies that are private equity owned, such as Level Access or Higher Logic, to larger companies that are private like Skillsoft, to companies that are small and venture-backed. And we have an amazing portfolio of experiences that helps us build the teams, process, and automation that you need to really scale revenue. So a reminder of why we do this. Why do we do customer success? Most of the team today comes from some sort of a customer success background or a customer-facing background. So why do we do this? And the answer is customer success is really the driver of your valuation, of your company valuation. And I love this metric. For every 1% of revenue retention that we increase, a SaaS company's value can increase by up to 12% after 5 years. And that's from three primary reasons. First, the pure impact that customer success has on revenue. Whether you're a team that actually owns a revenue number or whether you're paving the way for a sales team to do retention and upsell, the amount of recurring revenue that customer success can drive and retain is really incredible and important to enterprise valuation. Secondly, the impact on growth rate. So revenue growth really determines the revenue multiplier in valuation, and not only through gross retention, but also through net retention. That only continues to increase it. And then finally, just when you take your revenue plus your growth and the impact that has on brand and on your customers and their referenceability, you really get a nice flywheel going where you can really grow. So that's why we do this. Customer success is not about support. Customer success is not something that's squishy. It's really about driving revenue growth and enterprise valuation. And like I said earlier, it's cross-functional. So you really have to have every functional area contributing to customer success. They're all aligned around strategic customer experience initiatives. The best companies that we see doing this have created a customer-centric culture. They give purpose to their customer success team. They plan their customer journey, and they think about the transitions that a customer has through that customer journey. They fight churn, and they believe that their best defensive strategy is actually an offensive strategy. So the topic today, why build customer success operations? And I think it's really important that we start talking about where these operations functions started. You've got sales ops, you have marketing ops, you even have product operations if you think about DevOps. So let's talk about sales ops first. Sales operations, according to the internet, was created by Xerox. And that is, I think, a great example where early on, especially as technology continued to advance, as competition heats up, companies started realizing that you have to have a dedicated team to help with three primary areas. You have to have a team that's focused on sales team strategy. So that could include your territory planning. It could be aligning with product marketing on your go-to-market. Sales team organization. So what are the levels that we need? What are the job roles and responsibilities? How many senior client account executives do we need versus account executives? And then sales team efficiency and execution. And I'm going to say this word execution a lot today because operations teams by nature do execution. If you think about a sales team, if you're a sales rep, your job is to close deals, generate leads with marketing, and close deals. Your job is not to execute on strategic initiatives related to process, technology, org design, and so forth. These are all totally applicable to customer success needs. And that's why I wanted to start with sales ops. So we're going to do a quick poll. So this first poll is about the renewal process in your company. So if you're out there, the question is, who ensures that the renewal process happens for 100% of your accounts? And when I say 100%, I don't just mean that you have a process. I'm talking that you actually have a 100% of accounts going through some sort of a renewal process. So if you can take a minute and just answer the question here, whether it's sales ops or the head of customer success ops, or it actually doesn't happen consistently. I'd like to have a poll of the audience today on this topic.
I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results out.
Great. Thanks, Corey. So not surprisingly, in most cases, it's either the head, and actually it's a tie, it's either the head of customer success that's ensuring that a renewal process is happening consistently, or the process isn't happening consistently. I can't tell you how many clients, over 30 different clients I've worked with that have said, well, if they're on auto renew, we kind of just close our eyes and wait to see what happens. Or our motion is generally to be reactive. So this is not surprising to me. but if you think about the role of a VP or director of customer success, there's so much more strategy that could be done if you had a function that is responsible for ensuring process adherence. So thanks, Corey. We're going to move on to another poll question. So the second question, who administers your customer systems? So by customer systems, I'm talking about the broad definition. It could be Salesforce. It could be a customer success platform like ChurnZero. It might be the product that you use for customer experience measurement, such as NPS, or it could be your support system. So I want to understand a little bit here about who's doing this administration, and I'll tell you why in a minute. All right.
Responses?
Thanks, Corey. So we have the responses here. So again, I actually anticipated this. The majority of you say that your customer systems are being administered by sales ops or marketing ops. So this is not uncommon. Some of my best friends lead marketing ops and sales ops teams. One thing I can tell you for sure is that if you have a post-sale customer need that you've got to get prioritized, it's generally always going to be number 2 for sales ops or marketing ops behind lead generation and supporting sales team efficiency. So I'm bringing that up because it's one really big business case to have a customer success ops org that can help with this. And then secondly, the VP or director of customer success, I'm here today to tell you it is explicitly not the role in a mature company for the VP of customer success to do system administration. So this is, again, just great reasons why customer success ops continues to be more and more prevalent today. So we're going to do one more poll, and I'm glad we're doing this just to get everyone kind of warmed up to this topic. And the poll is, when I need help automating a customer process in the CRM, who do you go to? Is it sales ops? Is it IT? Do I do it myself? Or is it actually not even an option?
I've shared out the results from the last poll.
Thank you. The results are in. So again, I'm actually more surprised than I thought I would be. 39% of people saying, when I need help automating a customer process, I do it myself. There is so much complexity involved with automating a process. There's the process design, there's the system configuration, there's ensuring you have the right data to get it done, and then there's the actual change management and implementing the change within your organization. So if 39% of us are doing that ourselves, imagine the efficiency we could have if we actually had a team that helped us do that. And then secondly, sales ops or marketing ops, I'm again not surprised that the teams there are owning that, but customer needs, post-sale customer needs will always be a close second to generating leads and sales team efficiency. So thanks so much, Corey, for the help there. This is really interesting. And I'll move on with the presentation, but hopefully this gives you all sort of a precursor for why customer success ops. So why customer success ops? That's the answer we're all here to get today. And what I'd like to start with before we talk about what it is why we need it. So very few of us have a customer success or a customer experience blueprint. And what I mean by blueprint is we all know that we have to show up and we have to retain customers, we have to make them happy, we have to upsell them. But to really be strategic and get to the point where we're a mature customer organization, we need to have 4 things in place. So Customer Imperative likes to work with our clients to create what we call a blueprint, which includes the vision, the strategy, the roadmap, and the plan for customers and customer success. So your vision should be refreshed on a 2 to 3 year horizon. Generally, your customer vision is aligned with your company vision. It's aligned with how you want your brand to be perceived, and it's aligned with where your company is going strategically. Your customer strategy is very much like a product strategy. You should generally refresh those annually. So an annual horizon in terms of planning cycle tied to either a company strategy, a go-to-market strategy, or a product strategy. So you have your strategy, that's kind of your strategic initiatives, or it's your strategic objective around what you want to do in a year. How do you get it done? You have to create a roadmap. So your roadmap is a backlog of initiatives. They could be customer experience initiatives. They could be initiatives around revenue growth, around client retention, and initiatives are nothing unless you actually have a plan. And we like to talk about plans in a way that's very agile. Many times with our clients, we can come up with hundreds and hundreds of initiatives and potential projects. And what happens if you create a list of potential projects is that list will sit on a shelf and you won't revisit it. So we like to talk to our clients about what we call agile planning and execution. This is a cross-functional way in your company of defining quick wins and getting them done on a quarterly basis, and then going through a planning cycle with a customer strategy team where you're looking at bigger picture investments, building a business case around those, and then assigning initiative teams to get them done. So what is customer success operations? Defining customer success operations. Customer Imperative is an expert on defining customer success ops. We've worked with over 30 companies to look at how teams are structured or not structured, and it really comes down to these 5 areas. Customer success ops runs all customer data, process, people, systems, and strategic initiatives. So this is everything from developing your renewal forecasting methods to making sure that you've got telemetry like around account health or NPS. It's around process. Do we actually have playbooks that customer success managers are running? Are they being proactive versus reactive? In terms of people, sales operations does this all day long, every day. Let's plan the sales team goals. Let's track their performance. Let's align our sales workforce to our go-to-market and our target markets. Systems. Like we talked about earlier in the poll, if 39% of you are self-administering systems to facilitate customer automation, there is such a huge business case for this. So implementing and managing tools and owning the customer elements of the CRM. The key message here is that if you leave these items to the VP of Customer Success and the CSMs, nothing is going to happen. I'm here today to tell you that you're not going to achieve the results that you want in maturing your organization and improving the customer experience if you don't assign a customer ops team to own this. And if it's not a team, you can start with one person. You as the head of customer success, you as a customer success manager or account manager are busy gaining, growing, and retaining customers. You are not doing execution, and you shouldn't be. So what does a customer success organization look like at maturity? We see a lot of different organizations out there, and it does change. It changes based on your go-to-market. It changes based on your product complexity. But in general, we've got 4 key areas that we see being invested in. The first is client services. In some teams, it's called onboarding. In some teams, it's called professional services. And that's the team that's doing implementation. They could be doing integration, training and education, maybe some strategic services. Then you've got client care and support. So this is your reactive team. They are handling customers with their inbound requests. They are potentially doing more technical support at higher tiers. Then you've got your client or customer success management based on the term that you like. And this is where you get into the true account management. These are the teams that are developing product adoption strategies and client engagement strategies. In some cases, they're owning renewal and upsell, and in some cases, they are paving the way for renewal and upsell. And then you have customer success operations. So customer success operations is the team we're here to talk about today. this is the team that can really push forward those strategic initiatives you have around your client experience. This is the team that can help you forecast renewals. They can help you plan. They do all the work around data, analytics, systems, and implementing process. I work with a company that is a New York-based company. They're called Cypher Health, and I think they're a great example of a team that's built really efficient customer success operations. This team has a customer success team of 20 to 30 people, and they've done an amazing job with getting revenue health dashboards, account health dashboards, product usage in Salesforce, and actually being able to chip away at customer success initiatives that are going to drive that customer journey. So that's just one quick example. So we also got a lot of questions before the webinar on where does this sit? I've got sales ops, maybe I have revenue operations, maybe I have a chief revenue officer that actually owns all of revenue, bookings, and recurring revenue. Where does it sit? In some cases, we see customer success operations rolling up to a different leader that owns sales and revenue. So you can still have CS operations in terms of customer experience, maybe professional services, advancement, initiatives that pave the way for upsell and renewal. You can still have that separated from the team that owns sales and revenue ops. And the message is it changes based on your org structure in your company and your executive leadership. We see some companies that have sales ops just owning compensation, territory planning, sales efficiency, process, sales enablement, and training. And oftentimes that means that the executive leader of sales owns new logo sales only. Where you see customer success operations includes all of the revenue ops as well as the CS ops. And in some companies, those are called the same things. We see revenue operations being synonymous with customer success operations. It's just based on how you define it. What we believe as the experts in CS operations is that these things should be all together. And I know that for some, this is inflammatory because people hate org charts. Org charts are very close to our jobs. They're very close to something that we don't like, which is a ton of change. But we really like to see these teams being together. And here's why. The alignment that you get of aligning these four areas, marketing, sales, revenue, and customer success ops together, can help you get things done 3 times faster. Don't quote me on 3 times. I actually think it would be 5 times. Because how many times have you been in a situation where you have an initiative that you need to push forward, but you're relying on another functional area of the business for some dependency? Maybe you need access to data. Maybe you need a technical resource. Maybe you have team members that have competing initiatives because you've got different strategic objectives being driven from different functional areas. It happens all the time. You have too many silos and you can't get things done. I used to work for a company called Snag. It is the largest marketplace for hourly work. We took these 4 areas and we merged them together, and we saw magic happen. We had one owner of our customer data, whether it was our prospective customers or our current customers. We had really tight process around understanding where do we have gaps in account coverage? How can we get more data into the platform around product adoption and ROI? And then that gave us a lot more analytics. We could look at LTV to CAC. We could look at profitability. We could really understand our customers more deeply. And the best part was when we did strategic planning, we were all aligned around what the major initiatives were, and we didn't have to fight between silos to get work done. So now that we've talked about why customer success ops, what is it, let's cover how does it evolve. I want to acknowledge to everyone today, we've got companies based on the registration list that are the whole way from 500K in revenue to possibly multiple billions of dollars in revenue, if not double digits in billions. So I know that there's a spectrum here, and I want to talk about that. The evolution of the customer operations function starts when you start hitting that $10 million mark. Companies that we work with, sub 10 million, are generally just investing in customer success for the first time. So you don't start with a customer operations role, but once you hit that 10 million, especially as you start approaching 20 million, you start to see more specialization. You might have a customer success manager, you might have implementation consultants, you've got support people, and what comes with that is a lot more process and a lot more need for efficiency. So that's where we see it start. Once you hit that 20 million mark and the whole way up to 40 million, you don't have any choice but to optimize and automate. The reason we say that is because you cannot just scale customer success managers or account managers linearly as your revenue grows. So if you go from 20 million to 40, you can't just double the account managers. You can't double the customer success team. It does not scale. Your company can't afford that on the P&L. Your investors will not accept it. So you have to optimize and automate at this point. When you hit the 40 plus range, you're now behind if you don't. And the reason is because companies that hit that 40 plus million in revenue are starting to get more strategic with how they create wow customer experiences. So they're thinking about, what's my customer journey? They're investing in customer engagement. They're investing in analytics. They're investing in ways to predict if their customers have lagging metrics in terms of product adoption or in terms of sentiment, if they're talking about you negatively in the market. So you're behind if you don't invest in it at that point. The end all be all message is it's always important at every stage. So if you're a $10 million company and you can invest in a customer success ops analyst, do it. If you're a $40 million company, talk to me about why a director of customer operations is important for you. So how do we approach it? How do we implement it? We talk a ton about how this is important and what the role is, but how do we actually get it done? Before we talk about how to get it done, I'll tell you what's important when you do this. The problem that we have is alignment is hard. So if you're one of the executive team members or the C-suite members today, this slide is for you. Because I want your head of customer success to come to you and say, here's my problem, let's talk candidly. What a CEO cares about is brand growth and revenue growth. What our other executive team members are caring about in many cases is whatever their initiative for their functional area is right now. So for example, for the CIO, it could be infrastructure. For CMO, it could be generating leads. Chief Product Officer, it's developing and releasing the next feature as fast as possible. For Chief Customer Officer, it could be as broad as services and support issues. It could be customer engagement issues. It could be retention issues. Very seldom are all of these functional areas aligned around key customer strategy initiatives. So how do we solve the real customer experience problems when everyone is headed down a different path? The other challenge that we have when we're implementing customer success ops or trying to do strategic customer initiatives is that you have to do change management. Change management is not optional. And this is a very widely published metric on the success and failure rates of projects that involve strategic change. In general, over 70% of change projects fail. And the reason, if you look at the quadrant here that we have, is generally the solution is right in many cases, but the implementation is poor. So very few projects have the right solution with an effective implementation. Over 70% of projects fail because of a lack of focus on change management. So this is majorly important. And again, your VP of customer success and your CSMs are not going to be thinking about strategic change management for their customer success operations functions. So here's how we recommend you do this at Customer Imperative. We believe that customer success operations should be agile. So the first thing that we do is implement what we call a customer strategy team. And this is really a retention and growth council. So this team runs governance around your customer strategy. It's the team that provides executive sponsorship. So this does involve executive level team members that drive customer strategy goals to company and product and go-to-market goals. And they help prioritize and remove roadblocks. The other team that we recommend is what we call customer initiative teams. I know it says customer decision teams on there, but the next time I do this webinar, we're going to call it customer initiative teams. And the reason for that is you have initiatives that are going to be planned on an agile rhythm. So quarterly, you should be thinking about, where are we based on our objectives? What are the results that we want to get? And how are we going to know that we're succeeding and delivering on those objectives? And what are the initiatives we need to put behind that? It could be product, it could be support, or it could be customer experience. There are so many. If any of you have ever had to revamp your implementation process, you know what this is like. And what we recommend is that these teams work on an agile iteration rhythm. So a customer strategy team is generally consisting of a chief customer officer or whoever's playing the chief customer officer role. It could be SVP, VP, director of customer success. We like to see operations leadership involved there. We like to see CS operations consultants involved there. And we like to see CS operations analysts. If you only have one of those, that's okay. The strategy team should be comprised of executive team members that have a stake in the customer experience. So many times we'll also see CMOs, we'll see chief product officers, and the most mature companies involve the CEO in this as well. Customer initiative teams are comprised of functional leaders. So if you have an initiative around improving the support experience, you might have your director of support. You might have functional managers. Maybe your support issue is that you don't have enough content on the internet about how your product works. So maybe you have product marketing or content marketing involved there. Subject matter experts. If you have something, an initiative around the customer experience that you need subject matter expertise in, maybe you need a data scientist. And the other thing that people forget about customer initiative teams is you're doing it wrong if it's all inside the building. And I want to focus on that for a second. We oftentimes think that the problems that we're trying to solve with our company or our product have to be solved inside of our four walls, and that is a completely wrong assumption. Your customers actually have the best input, the best feedback, the best data, the best stories about how to solve these problems and what their experience is. You might not actually implement what they tell you to implement, but what you will do is get the stories and more deeply understand their problems so that you can come up with solutions. CS operations teams build process. That is something that is just inherent to the job. So these could be anywhere from what's your upsell and renewal process to your customer onboarding, or it could be more strategic, like your customer communication and customer engagement strategy. Where you are on the customer success continuum and where you are in the maturity is really what's going to drive where you focus first. A lot of companies that we work with that are in the sub $20 million range are just starting to get a really cohesive renewal process. Whereas you look at companies $1 billion plus, they're working on very strategic initiatives, like how do we create advocates of our customers through automated customer engagement. Customer success operations also helps build process that will help you have better metrics. So this is a lot of metrics I'm putting up here. Don't be overwhelmed. It's really just based on what's important to you. But the four areas that we want to see metrics in are revenue, product, customer feedback, and customer experience. So examples, as a customer success operations leader, I will build you a revenue forecast. I will show you what revenue is up for renewal and what revenue is up for at risk. And what I like to talk about here, and we've written a lot about this on the Customer Imperative blog, is you should be able to walk into a board meeting and have a very crisp slide on what revenue is up for renewal this quarter, what's at risk, and why, by category. Your CS operations team will also help you with product metrics. So collaborating with the head of product and your product managers, you should give customer success managers product usage and product adoption data. If they don't have it, they're operating blind. And I don't care what kind of product you are, whether you are a consumer-based product or an enterprise B2B product. I've seen companies that do invoicing software that have product usage and adoption data that helps their CSMs be proactive. So you could be doing the most enterprise B2B workflow, you still need product usage data. Customer feedback, NPS, CSAT, looking at the comments, analyzing those, feeding that back into the leadership team on what should be invested in. This is such an important customer operations role. And then customer experience. If you don't have a support operations team that's really looking at their operational efficiency, that's an area that customer success operations can invest in as well. So finally, we also got a lot of questions on LinkedIn about who should I hire? What's the job profile? So starting with the requirements, you really want someone that's strong with analytics. So they need to be someone who understands data, understands potentially business intelligence tools, understands how to pull reports. Experience in a prior operations role we like to see. If you're small and you're looking for an analyst, I would recommend that they still have some sort of operations background. Working for a SaaS technology company will help a lot here. They don't have to come from customer success. They can come from sales ops. They can come from revenue ops. In general, you want someone who's comfortable with understanding process and understanding operational efficiency. Strong Excel and Salesforce skills are a must. If you're not comfortable with CRM, if you're not comfortable with customer technology, that's a no-go. So what about personality characteristics? This is very important in terms of job fit. You need to be analytical. You need to be intrinsically analytical and problem-oriented. And what I mean by that is you need to be driven to look at a process and then think about how to improve it, and it has to be something that you enjoy doing. You also need to deep dive into trends and anomalies. So you need to find that kind of person who can look at data and have a level of professional skepticism around it and say, well, why does the data show us that? Is the data showing us the right thing? Strong communication and cross-functional collaboration skills, again, completely key. Customer success cannot impact the customer experience, cannot impact revenue growth if they're doing it within the four walls of their organization. So just like I said, if you're doing customer strategy inside the building and not involving your customers, you're doing it wrong. Customer success teams that take this all on themselves are also doing it wrong. And that's why we try to get that customer strategy team in place that's cross-functional. What that means is that CS ops has to be able to cross-functionally collaborate. So you've got to have someone who can influence without authority. And then obviously, you've got to be organized. You've got to have great time management because there's always more work to be done than you're going to be able to do in the quarter, in the month, in the week. We also get a lot of questions about comp. So comp really depends on the needs of your organization and the scope of the role. So for some companies, we see a customer success ops analyst. I would say generally they could make between 60 and 80K base. And you want to make sure that they've got incentive too. And if the question that you have is, how should their bonus incentive be calculated? You should definitely consider revenue. Tying a customer success ops analyst to revenue retention, maybe gross revenue retention, net revenue retention, it's extremely important. You want them to be incentivized to really drive operational efficiency and drive customer experience initiatives. If you've got a director of CS ops, you're going to be looking at someone a little more senior. So what we see companies paying in the market, and it completely depends on where you are, is generally the whole way from, I'd say, 120K to 200K OTE. So you want someone in that role that's been in the role for 5+ years, 5 to 10 years. You want someone who's really going to be a senior leader on your leadership team. And you need someone who's the right hand to the chief customer officer or the VP of customer success. Like I said, it varies by go-to-market strategy and selling motion, but you do need to think about what's important for your business right now based on where you are. If you want to talk about this, because I know it's complex and it's very situational, just shoot me an email. It's jason@customerimperative.com. And I'm happy to talk to you about it one-on-one. We consult with companies all the time on this topic, and it's really important that you get this right. So in summary, your sales ops team is focused on enabling sales, and your marketing ops team is focusing on creating the automation needed to generate leads at scale. As a customer success leader, your needs will be heard and they will be empathized with, but they will always be a close second. And when optimized, you as the head of customer success or you as a customer success manager, you are not meant to do execution. Execution sits with customer operations, customer success operations. VPs of customer success are meant to drive customer strategy and lead customer success teams. CSMs are meant to engage customers, proactively engage customers, renew them, and grow them. They are not meant to do operations and project management. CSMs by nature do not manage process, data, and systems. If you're a CSM, I know half of you on the call are today, you're waking up every day and wondering how you're going to get ahead of your customers. So in summary, this is why you need to invest in customer success ops, the same way that sales operations, marketing operations, product operations, DevOps, all of these functions have been invested in. And I promise you that you can grow faster with a customer-first approach. So I'm really excited to see if we get any questions from today. That's the content that I had to cover. Corey's going to read through any of the questions that have come in online, and we've got a little bit of time here to do some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that presentation, Jason. Again, at this time, I'd like to invite everyone from the audience to please go ahead and submit your questions, and we will get to as many as we can during this time. We've had a few come in during your presentation, so let's get started. The first question that came in said, in this presentation, the mature customer success org had a customer success ops role. There was also mention of combining rev, marketing, sales, and customer success ops into one. Where should the operations role fit in this combined world?
That's a great question. And for anyone who might need a refresher on that topic, we discussed about how some companies have sales ops, marketing ops, and maybe they have revenue ops or customer success ops. And I really believe that it should be one function if you want to move faster. So the question is, where does that live if it's one function? And it really depends on how your executive team is structured. You want it to be owned by whoever owns revenue is the shortest answer. I think that the person that owns the revenue number at the executive team level is the one that's going to be able to get things done the quickest. We do have some very strategic, very incredible chief customer officers out there who might be paired alongside with the chief revenue officer. I still believe that the chief revenue officer should own what is needed to drive that revenue. The ops team is so critically important, and having them together can really create a ton of efficiency and just lets you move faster. So I hope that answered the question.
Perfect. We have another one that came in that says, if there's no head count for a new CS ops role, what's the best way to incorporate the function until you can get budget?
That's a great question. So I think there's a question there, and then there's an inherent question, kind of a hidden question, which is, if we don't have budget, what do we do? The first thing that I would say is, we presented a lot of different ideas today on why. I think that the reason that this team isn't invested in early is because you're generally investing in the must-haves, right? You have to have customer success managers. You have to have implementation consultants. So oftentimes it is something that has an investment later in later stages. What I've seen companies do is really look at their customer strategy first. Developing a customer strategy ideally is something that you should be able to get executive level buy-in on. And if you work to develop a customer strategy cross-functionally with your CEO, your chief product officer, your CMO, your head of sales, you should be able to look at what are the most important initiatives that you need to put in place to get the work done. And then I think it'll be apparent that there might not be anybody there to help with those strategic initiatives. So building a business case is really the important part first. If you don't have anyone in place, you can still get work done through this concept you talked about with the customer strategy team and the customer initiative team. So it is a drain. You do have to acknowledge that ultimately a VP of customer success does not own process automation, and a CSM does not own data and systems. You can still get work done. So you can have a customer strategy team that's comprised of leaders and then create initiative SWAT teams. I have seen CSMs, implementation consultants, product managers roll up their sleeves and dive in on projects. The important part there is make sure that you're choosing low effort, high impact initiatives to do. Don't try to bite off things that are high effort, high impact, because you just won't be able to get them done. So it's all about prioritization and picking things that you think you can actually get done on a quarterly basis. So time box it. Say in the next 90 days, we're going to implement an NPS process, involve product, involve a representative CSM, involve marketing, create a little SWAT team, get it done. But don't do anything else other than servicing your customers and selling.
Awesome. I think that's right. We have another question that says, I know you mentioned tying CS ops roles to revenue for goals. What other goals or metrics do you recommend for CS ops?
It's a great question. So the that what I had said was you should look at gross retention and net retention. I'll tell you what I wouldn't tie them to. You don't want to tie them to metrics that sometimes are impacted by a really wide variety of uncontrollable environments and scenarios, such as NPS. I would not tie anybody's pay to NPS. There's so much that goes into that. There's who's your audience, who are the customers, when are they going live, what was the sales process like, what was the implementation like, what's the product experience like. Don't do that. You can look at tying them to some component of revenue as well as some component of personal performance measures. A lot of HR teams will really like to see that you tie them to achieve, some sort of exhibiting progress against company goals. You can tie them to a performance rating if you want. I'm not saying that they should be 100% tied to revenue on their incentive. Some companies we work with do. They say your base is your base and your bonus is tied to gross or net revenue retention. I think that most tend to have a split where maybe they do it half on revenue and half on a more subjective performance rating.
Got it. Our next question is, how do you delineate the strategic responsibilities between a director of customer success and a director of success ops?
That's a great question. I believe a director of customer success is the leadership team member that ultimately owns. They either own the revenue number or they own paving the way for the revenue number. And I'm not talking about bookings. I'm talking about ongoing revenue renewals. The director of customer success or the VP of customer success is also meant to be a leader from a team perspective. So they are meant to create the culture, create the environment, create the talent development process that really allows you to have world-class customer success managers. They're also responsible for managing day-to-day operations. So that means they're responsible for jumping in and helping the team when there's an escalation. They're responsible for being that executive point of contact for key accounts. Customer success operations is execution. Customer success ops is strategic initiatives related to people, data, process, and systems. So one of those things is durable. The work of a VP of customer success is more durable. It's something that, in general, doesn't change year to year. Maybe the projects you're working on do, but the motions and the responsibilities do. Customer success ops is agile execution of initiatives that need to push your customer experience forward. So I hope that clarifies the question.
I think so. We have a question that says, would a CS ops role typically have any customer contact, or would it purely be internal? Would they execute on any renewals or just flag things for CSM to execute on?
You don't want to have your customer success ops being client facing. And the reason I say that is because you have your customer success managers for that. You have your VP of customer success. You really want your CS ops individual to be focused on initiatives, focused on building process, building technology, automating. I have seen directors of CS ops participate in different customer interactions that help them get more empathy for the customer experience. So if you're a company that is good at doing product discovery or customer discovery, maybe you're interviewing customers consistently on how they use their product or what their challenges are in being successful in their roles, or maybe talking to them about their experience with your company, you can involve them, and I do recommend that. Just have them be a silent participant. The company I mentioned earlier that has a really amazing director of customer success operations, he sits in on a lot of NPS follow-up calls. So, and just as a reminder, if you're getting NPS comments, you should be following up on each and every one of them, especially the ones that say, I'm unhappy with XYZ. You want to call those people and talk to them. And that's a great opportunity for your ops team to sit in and listen as they start to think about solutioning for some of the problems your customers are having.
Got it. Our next question is, what other roles have you seen the CS ops role manage under them? So do they have any direct reports?
Yeah. So the company I worked at, Snag, was a good example of this. So we had a chief revenue officer who owned new logo bookings as well as revenue. So he owned all of our customer success managers. we had a pretty strong operations function. It started with sales ops and revenue ops, including a component of CS ops. We had I'm thinking back, we had a director of, we just called it revenue operations. So we had a director of revenue operations, and he had 3 analysts. One was focused on sales. So they were doing, if we acquired a list, if we acquired a list of prospective accounts, or if we had to change territory alignment, that person was working on all the CRM and data around that. We had a revenue ops analyst who was working a lot on the metrics that we needed around understanding our customer segments. They worked on LTV to CAC by product, LTV to CAC by customer segment, by size. And then we had a customer success operations analyst that really owned the systems that drove our proactive customer success. So for example, if you've got a churn zero type platform in place that's helping you with account health, scoring, or automated customer engagement marketing, that person focused there. We were a bigger company. If you think about that continuum I showed, we were towards the right of that, where we had the need to have 3 different analysts that focused on different parts of customer operations. And we eventually folded marketing ops into that as well. So in general, I would try to think about the size of your company and then what the needs of your organization are in terms of efficiency.
Got it. Do you think that CSM onboarding would fall under CS ops at all, or would that be up to another manager?
I think that CS ops has a responsibility in CSM onboarding, so they should be developing with the head of customer success the onboarding plan. They should be tracking that onboarding is being done efficiently and that we're taking care of our new team members. If you look at a sales ops team, a lot of times that falls into the sales enablement bucket. So I've got one of my best friends is a director of sales enablement, and a big part of his role is ensuring that after a new hire in sales goes through the HR training, how do you use your email? What are the company policies? Then they're going through, how do I be successful as a sales rep? How do I use outreach tools? How do I use Salesforce? What's my territory? I think that the same responsibility sits on the CS ops manager or director. I would say the ultimate accountability, though, is always on the team leader. You have to take care of your people that report to you.
Got it. Yep. We have a question that says, have you seen CS ops roles skew to more low-touch companies or high-touch at all?
It can be in both. So if you think about a marketing operations team. I had the benefit in a previous job of working for a company that had a very low ACV, high transactional customer segment. So we were ideally closing 200 to 300 deals a month in that segment. But we also went the whole way up to the mega enterprise world where we had 6 to 12 month deal cycles, and we had account teams of 3 to 4 chasing after really big whale multi-million-dollar accounts. So we needed customer success ops in both segments. If you think about marketing ops, a marketing ops team, if you have an SMB kind of go-to-market business, is focusing on lead generation at scale. So they're doing a lot of marketing automation. They're doing a lot of campaigns that are generating top of the funnel activity, versus a marketing ops function that's working for a very enterprise business is doing a lot more account-based marketing. So they're thinking about what are the accounts and who are the people that we need to engage at those accounts, and how do we be very targeted about that. The same applies to CS ops. So and this is 100% necessary on both sides. There's so many companies I work with that just have no customer engagement. We worked with a company recently that had around 12,000 customers and I think 2 customer success managers. So how in the heck are you supposed to have any touch point with those? It's not even possible to do a yearly touch point at that level. So investing in marketing automation for customers is very important, but it's also very important if you have very large customers to make sure that you're doing a more account-based customer engagement, because that's where you get into more complex stakeholder relationships. You might have hidden decision makers that you don't know about. that you need help developing plans to get to? And the answer is yes, it's needed at both ends of the spectrum, and I've seen it applied equally in all segments.
Got it. Yeah, I think so too. We have another question that came in that says, I am my company's first CS ops hire and previously worked as a CSM. What processes should I prioritize implementing? Possibly getting reporting handled first, or any other recommendations?
Yeah, great question. Welcome to the team, and congratulations. I'll say first, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm going to post these slides on my LinkedIn account. I know Turn Zero will also post them on the Resource Center. So there's a lot of good information. There's a process slide in there that you can kind of create as your prioritization checklist. The number one thing you need to do is make sure that you have a proactive renewal process. So start with the basics. What is your role? Your role is to enable customer success efficiency. If you're the first customer success ops hire, the first thing I would do is look at how proactive is your team being with renewals. And that doesn't mean that they're picking up the phone and saying, hi, are you going to renew this year? Obviously, we don't do that all the time. But do you have some sort of a plan to measure account health? Do you have a plan to engage with the customer 6 months out from renewal, 90 days from renewal? Do you even have the renewal date in Salesforce? I would start with the renewal process and go from there. Move on to the customer experience from there.
Got it. I think that's a good recommendation. We have another question that says, how much data should a CSM be held accountable for? Are we suggesting having CS ops role handle all of data needs for the team?
The CS ops team should be building the structure and the process to help automate. They should be helping the CSM's life be easier. The CSM needs to be responsible for updating their account list. So as a CSM, you need to be able to update account health score. You need to be able to document your interactions. If CS ops can help you be more efficient with that, like for example, if you use some sort of tool to automate your outreach to your customers, can CS ops help integrate that back to your CRM so you've got a history or an audit trail of when the last time you touched them was? That's a good example of how they work together. But ultimately, you've got to work together. The CS ops team needs to be focused on saving the CSM time, but the CSM needs to be collecting, gathering, and entering data into the CRM so that you can actually put that process to good use.
Awesome. I think that's right. Before we close out, any last tips for trying to advocate for the CS ops role that you would highlight?
I think what I would highlight is, I know that this role is newer. You see revenue, you see sales ops. I see a lot of revenue ops if you do a LinkedIn search. Think about starting small. If you're a smaller business and you don't have this role at all, think about what are the biggest needs that you have? What are the lowest effort, highest impact things that you could put in place? And think about carving out one person for the team. I would also think about what kind of technology you can use to automate this as well. But I would recommend you don't try to go down the path of implementing technology unless you know you've got investment on the resource side to handle it. The VP of customer success is not the best person to be administering systems. So just think about the investment versus the ROI. And don't forget, 1% increase in retention can have a 12% increase in company valuation over a couple years. So the investment, I guarantee you, will pay off.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. And I wanted to remind everyone that we will be sending a recording of this webinar out tomorrow. And at the end of this webcast, we'll be sending out a pop-up survey, and we'd appreciate it if you could take a minute or two before logging off just to provide your feedback. Thanks, Jason, and thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.